Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Localization Fireside Chat podcast and YouTube channel. My name is Robin Ayub, as you probably know me already by now, the founder of this platform. And to those who aren't familiar with me, you can check me out on LinkedIn. Happy to connect with you and lovely to meet you at some point. And if you would like to be part of this channel, you'd like to bring your conversation to this channel, happy to host you. And if you have any idea of a show that you'd like to do with me, please email me and connect with me. I am honored this morning, today, to be joined by my good friend and industry colleague, Bruno Bitter from Blackbird. And when I heard that Bruno is involved with a initiative such as a Blackbird, I kind of had the feeling, nobody told me anything, but just had a feeling it's going to be exciting, it's going to be revolutionizing the industry in some ways. So I couldn't wait to have this conversation with Bruno. I was excited to have him on the show with me to explain to my audience and the audience of this channel about this exciting initiative. So Bruno, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Localization Fireside Chat and non-scripted conversation this morning over coffee together. And hopefully we can tell the audience what Blackbird is all about. So would you mind introducing yourself first? We'd love to get to know you on a personal level and on a professional level. And then we'll dig into the Blackbird initiative. The floor is yours.
Good morning, Robin. Great to be on your show. And I love that you're doing this, creating a community within a community. The only regret I have is that we don't have it in person since we are both in Toronto, right? We could sit next to a fire crackling and have that conversation, maybe in the next episode. So my name is Bruno Bitter. I am one of the co-founders of Blackbird.io. I work as the CEO of this new startup. I am a Hungarian living in Canada. I am a father of 2 kids, dog lover, espresso lover, serial entrepreneur. This is my 4th company. And yeah, I'm very passionate about Blackbird, and this is what keeps my focus and juices flowing.
Well, good to have you on the show again, one more time. And, I remember when I met you and we took a walk after our meal when we had lunch, we took a walk in the park up on the Don Valley area. And yep. I really enjoyed that. You had the dog with you. You mentioned the dog. Now I was going to ask you, how is the dog doing? But and we had an interesting walk. It was a fall season. I remember the leaves were turning. Yeah. So
beautiful fall season in Toronto. Legendary. Yeah, it was in Sherwood Park. I remember well. Our dog, Ginger, she was still a puppy then. She has grown. She's 3.5. She's lovely. She's very, she's not the Instagram version of a golden retriever, because when you get a puppy, they're not like that, right? A puppy dog is not someone who you can enjoy the sunset because they're just all over the place. But now she has mellowed out, and she's actually here next to me.
Excellent.
Great companion.
So great. Now let's talk a little bit about the new initiative, the new company that you're putting together, that you're launching. And I think I went on your website, it looks formidable in terms of the idea, in terms of the concept. Let's talk a little bit about Blackbird. Would you mind introducing the audience to Blackbird in your own words?
Blackbird is a workflow orchestration platform that enables integrations, automations, and orchestration of processes. There are other software that do this. In fact, this is a very mature category of software, often called iPaaS, which stands for Integration Platform as a Service or Workflow Orchestration. It's exemplified by large vendors, some of them quite well known, like Zapier or Make.com. Then there are enterprise-focused players like Workato or MuleSoft or Trade.io. What makes Blackbird unique, and which is the whole reason of our existence, is that the mainstream vendors are not focusing on language. They're not even focusing on content. When they think of integration, they think of more data-oriented products like CRMs, and they think of integrating, connecting the dots within one organization, typically one enterprise. Now, that's not the landscape we have in the language industry, right? We are working with content, we are working with languages, which is very special, very, very different from, let's say, connecting CRM to some other business system. 2, we have a value chain, a supply chain of end clients vendors, often sub-vendors. So we have this unique supply chain. So when we want to offer an orchestration product, we have to take all of these into consideration, even at the core of a product, and definitely when it comes to the application layer. So we wanted to create a unique product that has the language industry's special needs and considerations at the center. And this came at a special time where we see the very rapid emergence of key new technologies from MTQE to large language models. And this gave us the opportunity to build a platform that can also serve as a platform to make sense of some of these new technologies, to deploy large language models, to experiment with some of these new opportunities. And yeah.
Go ahead, Bruno. Sorry to interrupt. I thought you finished. Go ahead.
I just wanted to reflect on one more thing. We are already in year 2. So we started working on the concept just over 2 years ago. We had our prototype about a year and a half ago. And by last year, when we went to Lockroad, Silicon Valley, which was our moment out of stealth mode, we had a pretty mature MVP. And today we consider Blackbird ready to be a commercial grade product.
And so is it my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, and this is we're trying to get to know through this conversation, the strategy, the product, does it serve? So is it really primarily targeting the language industry, the localization industry, or you have a broader vision for the software?
Well, the language industry in itself is pretty broad, very diverse. It has so many buyer segments, if you want to use this term, with different needs. So for now, we want to stay very focused. We don't want to scatter ourselves around the map. We want to deliver on our promises to create something that is very useful and very relevant for the language industry. Within the industry, there are at least 3 large subset of groups we are engaging with. First, there are the language solution providers, where technology and the ability to deliver not just services, quality services, but process and technology is increasingly important. So there we help companies to become tech-enabled, and we help already tech-enabled companies to keep their edge or even increase it. Then there are the end clients, the buyers on the enterprise side that are always looking at new ways to create efficiencies, new ways to automate better, be sometimes early adopters of new opportunities. And last but not least, there are all the adjacent technology vendors, from TMS to MT to audiovisual, who are also looking at a number of challenges when it comes to connectivity. And Blackbird can be a partner of all these companies. So we not just integrate with many of these adjacent technologies, but partner with them. And altogether, this means a full plate for us. In the future, we might venture out. So one obvious opportunity is the content industry with content marketing in general. And we might see very interesting developments in that area, especially due to the impact of large language model and that whole new architecture emerging around large language models.
So if I was, to ask you this question, like as an entrepreneur, there's about 19,000 companies in our localization industry that they directly deliver services to various customers. It's a horizontal service, goes across many other industries, etc. So if I was an entrepreneur, owns a translation company of sort or a language company of sort, and then I'm considering this conversation and I'm interested in implementing your tool in my process. So what can you tell them about the primary benefits that they will gain if they're considering this platform? What are the primary benefits they will gain from implementing Blackbird.io?
Yeah, so starting with the most basic, prospects often ask, but can you connect to my system? And those systems can range from content management systems to proprietary tools. And the ability to answer them in a positive way often determines the outcome of that opportunity. So being able to say yes, because we are integrated on Blackbird or we use Blackbird, then that often means the ability to move forward and close the deal and focus on other areas. So we eliminate this problem and challenge of not being able to connect or achieving the connectivity everybody seeks faster, because sometimes things are possible, but just too slow and too expensive. So it's also about, moving from months to sometimes days to create something, to go to production. So that's a starting point, right? And then for larger companies, it's increasingly table stakes at RFPs to demonstrate that they have advanced technology. So we see that even in an RFI stage, which is usually the first stage, a large demanding enterprise will want to narrow down the shortlist, and they will narrow it down. And there will be many factors, as we know, including compliance and, of course, the roster of references. But increasingly, process, data, technology, these are very important. So for larger companies, to be able to demonstrate that they have such technology, what Blackbird is, can mean the ability to be there at the large RFPs and compete with big companies. And so this is also, just last thought, Ramin, it's also leveling the playing field, because in the past, to have such technology, you would have to build it and have investment of millions. So very few, even if you look at the NIMSY 100 list, which is the elite club of LSPs, actually only a fraction have full-fledged technologies for all these areas. But with Blackbird, it functions in a SaaS model, so you don't need to build it. You can just purchase a subscription and have.
So one of the points that you brought up is, and I saw actually a little bit of that on your website, is integration out of the box integration. Most of these integrations, as we know, in some cases, specifically for, there's like 12,000, I heard the number, in terms of content management systems out there. Yeah, there are the famous ones like the 80-20 rules in every industry. You've got the 80%, 20% of the top 80 of the market, but you've got a slew of others that they are proprietary to a large extent. And some of them, they allow for connectivity, seamless connectivity, which you can build software around it, as you probably have done. But most of them are, I call them a little bit of obscure, because they're not well known. Some people choose them because of their price, because of their situation, because of the service that they offer. My question is, when we talk about out-of-the-box integration, how out-of-the-box integration?
Yeah, first I want to acknowledge that, the numbers you cited are quite precise. G2 B2B software review site today has over 2,000 categories of software and tens of thousands of software reviewed. So that's part of the challenge, that over the past 10 years, the world has seen a proliferation of software, which is a good thing, right? But it also poses big challenges. Even if you narrow it down to B2B software, and if you further narrow it down to software that clients use, it's still in the hundreds. So one way to mitigate it is by building a framework that can handle that. And the key technology for us, but in general, is having an SDK, software development kit, that is versatile enough to work efficiently in such a world, that lets you not just build, let's say, a proprietary or a niche connector from zero to production in a shorter time, but also to be able to change the specification, because that's also part of the problem, that the connectors we have been used to were way too rigid. So they had a very finite specification, and if you needed something else or a little different, let's say you had an API, custom API endpoint, and it wasn't there, you were stuck. Then you had to go to custom development route and build it from scratch. So one of the key objectives for us to have an SDK that allows us, but also each of our clients, to build connectors faster and to be able to tweak connectors very rapidly. And we also built Blackbird to be a code deployment platform. So when a user builds a proprietary connector, a private app on Blackbird, they can deploy it on Blackbird, which is very powerful. It really makes things very efficient and very scalable. So that's our answer. But for us, having connectors is only the starting point. So yes, you have a connector, you connect, and then what? As my colleague Matthijs likes to say. And this then what is what the essence of Blackbird is. We have a visual canvas where users, without having to use code, so it's fully point and click, can define the workflow they want to have. With many connectors we have been working in our market, connectors predefine the process. They say it's point to point between two systems, let's say CMS and the TMS. It's linear, it's one way, and then that's it. We don't define that. We let our users use our canvas to create the process, and that process can be linear or nonlinear. It can have two or as many steps as needed. And usually before, when you had these complexities, let's say something had to be nonlinear or have special operators, you would have to use engineers to build it because it was so unique to your needs. And now we have a visual editor where non-engineers can very quickly create a prototype that works. So working prototype, it can be executed, it can be measured. It's very easy to create iterations of a process. Something that's very common in marketing, right? A/B testing, creating variations of something and quickly finding out, measuring and finding out which performs the best and going with that. That's a key idea we want to implement in Blackbird, enabling that to create multiple versions of something, measuring it quickly, looking at it with various stakeholders and quickly coming to a final production ready workflow.
So based on what I'm understanding, Bruno, most of the functionality, and I mean, not most, but one of the most important functionality is to connect the content to the language service provider using these automated tools that users can build by themselves. So it sounds like your platform is more of a platform, not necessarily just using like we use a typical software to conduct a specific transaction, more of a development platform that is very intuitive, point and click, as you mentioned earlier. If something doesn't exist out of the box, the rest of it is pretty easy to generate, and you can deploy it on your platform. Am I summarizing it correctly, or?
Yeah, platform in the meaning that it's extendable. Yes, we want to apply that Pareto principle. You referenced that 80-20 rule. So we want to have things ready out of the box that the majority of users will want. But everything else, we do not want to be the bottleneck. So we have developer tools like the SDK that enables partners to be autonomously creating things that they want. And the first part of your question was about the use case of content to TMSs. Yes, that's a very mature use case that still has challenges in the industry, and we can enable that. But there are a number of other use cases that are very interesting, important. One of them is the fact that most LSPs are using not one single TMS, but multiple TMSs. They have to. And these tools and even the categories of tools do not seamlessly connect with each other, which creates data silos. It creates a lot of manual error-prone processes. It puts a lot of strain on project managers, leading to burnout. There are so many manual steps. So we focus on that. And then where it gets really interesting today is how you can start using new technologies and technologies that our industry hasn't really used before, like analytics, machine translation with more advanced more advanced approaches, MTQE, aka risk prediction, and this whole AI landscape. So we also a really inspiring keynote speech. It was about innovation strategies, and the approach was, I'm simplifying it, but that you need to manage multiple horizons when you want to be good in innovation in your industry. There's basically the most immediate time horizon, right? The existing processes which you want to improve continuously, so apply some kind of Kaizen principle. Then there's the day after tomorrow, things that are, midterm focused, which might involve starting to apply new technologies and new ways of working. And then it's really important to allocate some bandwidth for an even longer time horizon and not kick that can always down the road. And when we demonstrate Blackbird, we try to take that approach, show how this technology can apply some Kaizen principle to things you're already doing, right? Taking content from content management systems and putting it in a business management system, setting up orders, creating in the TMS, how to automate it round trip. But then we also talk about how you can start using MT in more efficient ways, how you can start using analytics. And then we love to show how we can already do really amazing things with LLMs and this whole LLM ops space that really erupted in the last 6-9 months.
Absolutely, it erupted. Everybody's talking about LLM now and Gen AI, and it sounds like it's the conversation of the hour. One of the things I noticed on your website, that one of the benefits, I would think, especially in an industry where all the new technologies are addressing the productivity of the translator, trying to make the translator a lot more productive, to reduce costs, etc. But in industry, if you take a scan across the industry globally, most of the internal employees for the industry are project managers, because for the large extent, for the norm, if you will, there are exceptions, of course. Translators generally are freelancers. They're not necessarily direct employees in many cases. So one thing I noticed on your website is there is an impact, and it sounds like there is an impact, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you can explore that a little bit here, on the productivity of the project manager. Because one of the things I've noticed in dealing with multiple customers, single individual project manager dealing with multiple customers, multiple preferences, multiple systems, multiple types of documents, there's a lot of manual typing, clicking and dragging. There's a lot of details that project manager has to do. And from what I noticed on your website, it sounds like you can design workflows, you can enable some of those, reduce some of those steps, enable a little bit more productivity for a project manager. Can you explore that a little bit? What's the impact on a project manager?
Well, hopefully the impact is that there will be less stress and less burnout and less trying to spin one too many plates. The key to automation doesn't start with technology. It starts with awareness and having the clarity, being able to articulate what is happening, what are we doing, why are we doing it. So that's often the harder part, right? Having that clarity of what's going on. But sophisticated organizations have that awareness. They are having conversations around that. How could we do it differently? How could we eliminate some of the silos and manual processes? And these are our best partners for us, where the conversation starts with problem mapping, right? The problem space is clear, because then technology like ours can really build new processes. So yes, let's say the problem is that system, but that these systems don't connect with business management systems where the project managers need to create orders. Part of the problem of automating in a way that's not sophisticated enough is that you don't want to automate one-to-one. You want to do batching processes. I don't want to get too technical here today, but really understanding the day-to-day problems and the way project managers do work is key to build better processes. So yeah, we we think we can move towards a world where project managers' role evolves into hopefully something that is more meaningful for everyone. We have seen that happening in other industries, that better automation didn't make professionals' jobs redundant or irrelevant. It enhanced them. We have seen it in the 1980s with spreadsheet tools. It didn't get rid of accountants. In fact, it created this whole new era of personal finance management, and accountants could shift more into a consultant role, and they can charge actually higher rates because they don't actually need to do the stuff that Excel does. And we have seen it across many industries, and I think we are in the middle of seeing this transformation in our industry, that project managers hopefully will start seeing more and more of their time get freed up because they don't need to do those chores anymore, and that frees them up to become more focused on clients. And hopefully more and more project managers can also receive training to become more like solution engineers, discussing processes, discussing ways of working, and having tools that, like Blackbird, they can use to implement. So that's our vision for the evolving role of the project manager.
No, you bring up a very good point, and I'm reminded by a conversation I've been having in this industry for the past 21 years, as long as I've been here, is that we should have a concept. Instead of the project manager being in the process, they should be outside the process, monitoring the process. And I find that evolution, right or wrong, I don't know, but it has not really evolved that much. To a large extent, the project manager still primarily is the process, and yes, not outside the process monitoring how things are going and only dealing with exceptions. And one of the things I keep talking about, especially now when I hear AI, and everybody is so excited about AI, and I'm keep talking on this channel about the impact of AI, and it has to be a very positive impact on the project manager, on how we do decision making and how we route things and how we complete things. There's a lot of learning there and a lot of possibilities there to improve the life of a project manager in our industry. Because let's face it, they're on the front end of things. They're on the front of customer service. They're on the front end of managing expectations from customers. And they are on the front end of dealing with the inside, the internal process, meaning the translators, the desktop publishers, etc. That part of it has to get a little bit better and much better down the road, because translation is not reducing, it's increasing. Back to your analogy about Excel spreadsheets with accountants, it doesn't mean that the new technologies that are being introduced and the innovations being introduced into the industry is reducing the amount of work that this industry is doing, allowing us to elevate and innovate a little bit and produce more value to the industries that we are serving in the way we're serving them.
I fully agree, Robin. I really resonate with that message you just said so well. Yeah, that should be the goal, having project managers who are not the process, but who are monitoring the process. One of my favorite examples is the US Air Force's transition from manned planes to drones. So we don't actually have Tom Hanks or Tom Cruise guys flying those airplanes. So you would think that, then pilots have lost their jobs. It's a sad story. But no, actually, these drones employ more people. They just don't need to fly it. They need to, monitor the process, as you put it, and the type of roles are really enhanced. So it's, of course, a pilot's role was already very sophisticated, but today we see that data analysis and all kinds of technology are involved in operating these flights, but you don't need to physically operate it. So to your point, that is what we should want to see more of in businesses.
Now, you went through a development period. So you went through, you called it early on in the conversation in stealth mode. you went into a development period, then you launched in local world. And so tell us, what is the status right now for Blackbird in terms of commercialization? Where are you right now in terms of commercializing the software? You have customers, is marketing going on now, etc. So
Yes. So we are definitely in the commercial stage, but I don't look at commercialization as an event. It's a process, right? It
of
comes
course.
in incremental stages. So we definitely came out of stealth mode at Lockworld, went to Gala this past March, went to Lockworld again in Malmö. We started exhibiting, started showing ourselves, participated in the Process Innovation Challenge. So marketing has started, right? Talking about who we are, what we would like to enable, what Blackbird is. We started with engaging the different segments of the market, and we have started offering trials and POC projects about 6-9 months ago, onboarding clients into actual sandbox environments that can run end-to-end processes. In the initial periods, we knew that this is not yet going fully to production. This is still about learning. This is about getting feedback from early adopters, in exchange offering these early adopters influence over our roadmap, helping us shape this roadmap going forward. And today we see that the gap analysis that typically comes out of a first discovery call is shrinking every month. 6 months ago, most clients would say that, this is really great, we want to use it, but we would also determine a number of gaps, things we would still need to do, be it some apps that need to be supported, or even things in the core platform. And about 4 or 5 months ago, we started seeing that now, more often than not, that gap is very small or it's not there. So we're super happy to see it. And being commercial ready isn't just about core functionality or application, but even things around security and compliance. And luckily, we were mindful of that. So we started the compliance journey about 9 months ago. It's not the most exciting topic, but we knew that to be really ready for large clients, we will need to have things like SOC 2. And we have it today. So today we have many conversations each week. We have, I think, a pretty healthy, vibrant pipeline of prospects, and we are able to onboard the majority of these prospects today. So very quickly go to signing some kind of agreement, going to a sandbox, identifying what should be the first workflow, and then the first 6. So we are at this stage, and in the first couple of years, as it should be, we were focusing on the product. So most of the people in our team were engineers, product managers, UX designers, and I'm still very inspired every day that the majority of this company is product driven. That said, with clients onboarded, we have to start growing our client operations. We have to have people who are good in customer success management and probably more marketing and more sales.
So for our audience, you've heard it here, Blackbird.io is ready to accept customers. And for those who are, and I highly encourage you, I am very excited about this product. I'm very pro, revolutionizing the industry and taking it to the next level in terms of innovation. This product is, this software, this platform, it's going to really have a great positive impact to any businesses that will take a look at it and see how they can apply it in their life, in their business life. I highly encourage everybody who's listening to this podcast and this YouTube channel, reach out to Bruno. Blackbird.io is the website. You can reach out to them. And this is exciting. Everything I'm hearing today from Bruno is in a great excitement in terms of how we are going to continuously innovate in our industry. Let's face it, if we don't innovate or we don't advance further, that means we're backward. And nobody wants to go backward because that's the end of things. So to continue moving forward, I guess we, as business owners, as who are looking always for efficiency, for doing things better for their customers or for their staff. They need to always look for new ideas. And the new idea here today is Blackbird.io. I can't repeat it fast enough or more enough. Make sure that you check them out on their website. Reach out to Bruno and his team. Happy to help you out. And I'm glad you brought up compliance, because one of the things in data today, in today's world, with everything that's going around cybersecurity, intrusion, the list goes on. Compliance. Everybody is talking about compliance, from the European rules to the North American rules. And you are a global company, you'd be serving global customers. So there are various compliances to various regions. Curious, how do you manage that?
You need to set aside resources. So there's unfortunately no magic wand that can make it happen. It's still blood, sweat, and tears. There have been some interesting changes, and one change that has been particularly helpful for us is the emergence of a new type of software called compliance automation, which almost overnight in the past couple of years became $1 billion software segment. And we are working with one of the market leaders in that segment, a company called Drata, and it really accelerated our journey into compliance readiness. It helps us create full awareness of what compliance means across various regions. What is GDRP, what is ISO 27001, what is SOC 2, what is HIPAA. And after starting working with them, after onboarding them into their platform, in a few days, we saw the gap analysis. What are the things that we already checked? What are the things we need to focus on? And that has helped us accelerate our readiness. So that was helpful, but still we needed to make sure that we have compliance
Absolutely.
capacity experts here. And I expect that to become even more important. So you already said compliance. So you might hear it being said 5 times in some conversations. So I expect that to happen, but I'm usually relieved because it comes up in most calls, even during the first call, and it's such a relief to be able to say, hey, we have SOC 2, we are audited by a third-party American organization. One thing that Drata can do, and this type of compliance readiness platforms can do, is actually generate a live real-time link a company like us can share with clients that show the real-time status of hundreds of compliance controls. So that's really cool that even between 2 audit periods, which yield a PDF document or a Word document, we can show a dashboard of hundreds of live controls showing how we are faring. And this is especially important for a tech company like us, and especially important for a middleware company where we are routing data and content. So everybody will want to know, where does our data reside and what happens, the story, and being able to answer it and say that it's not just us who say it. We have independent auditors, I think, is a big reassurance.
Because one of the, sorry, I have 1,000 question for you, but maybe we'll do that some other discussion. And I want to make sure that we're sticking to the time here, but maybe the next conversation, we'll do it face-to-face. I'm set up to do that. Like the channel is set up to do face-to-face. And then we'll do another discussion with you face-to-face in Toronto here. But one of the things that adjacent to compliance is what we call the geolocation of data. So where is the data residing? And there are some particular countries, industries that the transition industry or localization industry deals with. They do not allow their data to be taken outside the country.
Yep.
Have you, can you elaborate a little bit on this one? What's your answer to that?
We decided to work with the best, or at least one of the best infrastructure providers, Microsoft Azure. So Blackbird is built on Azure. Azure enables our technology to be deployed in any of their regions. They have 100+ regions. So today we can offer Blackbird to be deployed in the EU, in Germany, in the US. These are our 2 choices now. But hopefully very soon we will start talking with Canadian prospects who will ask us to deploy it in Canada, and then we will make that happen. With Azure, it's not a complicated thing. And that I worked a couple of years at MemoQ, and we had a pretty refined cloud strategy there. It also started with 2 cloud centers, US and EU. And during my years, it went from multiple data centers in the US. We added Canada just during the time I made my move here, added Japan, added the Middle East. So I hope to see a rapid rollout of different regions.
Absolutely.
And one of the hot topics of these days is being multi-cloud. So we can do this on Azure, but what's on our roadmap is to offer it multiple infrastructure providers. So we want to say, not just choose your region, but choose your cloud infrastructure.
Very flexible platform, because most of the platforms, they invest a lot of money into, or a lot of effort into building something, and they neglect, the amount of possibilities that are out there, amount of possibilities of platforms, possibilities of choice by customer, etc. So what I'm hearing here is that platform is built on the idea of being flexible in terms of content management software that you can connect to, being flexible on how you deploy it, being flexible on what users they use it, how they use it, designing workflows. And that's very eye-opening for me, because most platforms are written, they do offer some flexibility, but with flexibility comes rigidity down the road, because if you don't continuously update the software on what's new, what's coming, I used to say, technology changes every year. Now technology changes every month. There's a brand new idea coming up. There's a brand new platform such as Blackbird every day coming out onto the market. So I love the idea of dealing with a software or platform organization that is built on being flexible. And that should give a lot of comfort to potential customers and potential users of your platform. I do hope that this conversation today allows more conversations for you, more positive conversations with you, with your potential customers, prospects, and partners, hopefully. And before I close the conversation, what is your hope and desire and your vision for Blackbird, short-term, medium-term, and long-term?
Yes, I love to talk about that. I'm very future-oriented, and I'm trying to be mindful that that's also a risk, because I need to focus on the present too. But I just love to, have a question like this, and something I ask myself every day too, and we have conversations with my colleagues about it. So today, the way we look at the market is really recognizing that there are 3 larger ecosystems. So one ecosystem is our known ecosystem, well represented by maps like NIMS's Technology Atlas that in a very visual way show what this ecosystem looks like, what are the key categories. Another ecosystem we see and we feel that we are connecting to that definitely is content operations ecosystems. But this does include all the content management systems where content is authored and published, but also content management systems in the wider sense of this word, where content is stored, where content is measured, where content is reported on. So things like cloud storage systems, things like analytics tools, things like planning tools around content. Very large ecosystem and much larger industry in total than the language industry. And in the past 9 months, we have seen the really rapid, dizzying emergence of a third ecosystem, and that's the ecosystem of LLM ops, as some choose to call it these days. A new architecture around large language models that includes large language models with APIs like Anthropic's Claude and OpenAI, of course, the biggest name, but also other key technologies like vector databases, the ability to create pipelines, prompt chaining of these technologies. And increasingly today, when we talk about our purpose to connect things, we're not just talking about connecting individual applications to each other, but really accelerating the convergence of these 3 areas. And I'm really excited about seeing what magic comes out of that when we move, let's say, data analytics, the ability to not just move content into a TMS, but measure business outcomes, measure engagements, and automate around business metrics like that. And that's what I talked about at the Process Innovation Challenge at Malmö. And we are doing a lot. We are investing a lot into making that not just actionable. It's already is actionable, but making it really, really sophisticated, but also easy to use at the same time. So what I realized a couple months ago, that when I go to a meetup, like I was just at Cohere's meetup here in Toronto 2 weeks ago. They have the headquarters here on John Street, just off Queen West. And there were a lot of, PhD, AI PhD students from Waterloo and Toronto University. They asked me what I do. And I said, I'm in the language industry. And they all nodded, thinking that they understand. And some would even say, yeah, me too, I'm in the language industry. But what was interesting, that it very quickly turned out that they have no awareness of whatsoever what we call the language industry. They have never heard of that NIMSY ecosystem. When they say language industry, they mean, oh, I work with technologies like Cohere. I'm into lang chaining, and I'm using Cohere in my PhD work. So what really hit me is that, wow, we have two language industries now with no awareness of each other, or very low level of influence. So one of our missions, and this is not the short term, but the midterm, is to really help make it into one, so that this new shadow language industry is fully aware that there's a very mature industry with immense wealth of know-how when it comes to dealing with language operations, and also the other way around, that we have a deeper sense of what LLM architecture means beyond. So this is the midterm. And I don't know, maybe we should talk about the long term the next time we follow up next to a real fireside chat.
I would love that. I would love to sit down and do a session on, what does the future look like? Sort of like the Star Trek, if you will, of the language industry, in terms of, what would happen to the language industry if we continue innovating, continue developing it. And, the question of when I say what happened is not exist or does not exist. I'm talking about an evolution of the industry and taking it to the next level. The industry will always be around. I mean, this is where, the concern for some of my audience, and I receive some messages, from people who are impacted by AI, but, I'm not going to comment too much on that one, because it could be an individual thing, or whatever the case may be. They lost their job because of AI. I don't know. But the opportunity that the new technology, the new platforms that they're coming onto the technology is presenting to the language industry, or all other industries, to be honest with you, not just the language industry, it's immense. It's an immense thing, because now with technology, we can do more with less. We can provide more, and we cannot have to always keep thinking the language industry, what is the mission and the vision for the language industry, is connecting people together. The more we translate, the more we communicate, the more we enable messages between demographics, the more we contribute positively to the world. Because what my last topic I talked about, and you're from outside of Canada, you're raising a family here, and you know what I'm talking about. I interviewed Carrie Fisher a few weeks ago, and we talked about kids learning languages at an early stage of their life, and the fundamental impact that they will have on their life as they grow in terms of positive impact. So more languages, more connectivity, more messages. That's what the industry is about. I mean, sub-Saharan languages, they deserve to be communicated. They deserve content that is only being published in North America or in Europe. How do we get that message over to them? How do we get the message over to those, many demographics area that we don't hear talk about much, because we're involved in the 80-20 rules again, the 20% of the 20% of the languages around the world. But our industry could use those technologies, could use ideas such as yours to continue enhancing and enabling more communication globally to various centers of the world. By ending this conversation, I really want to thank you, Bruno, for coming on. Always good to see you. Our conversation this morning was completely enlightening for me. I enjoyed it. I hope the audience, I hope you get something positive out of this. Check out our YouTube channel, check out our podcast. Resulting of this conversation, there will be publishing a YouTube video. We'll also be publishing the audio portion in terms of podcast. It'll be available on all podcast channels. And we'll also be publishing a press release. And for this, I want to thank multi-language media for helping and supporting this channel. And also, I'll be publishing a blog post about this particular conversation. So you've got a lot of content to work with, and I hope something positive comes out of it. Last word.
Thank you, Robin, for the conversation. Really enjoyed it. I love what you are doing for the community. And yeah, I look forward to following up. Look forward to seeing you in person, perhaps in 2 weeks at the Localization Conference here in Toronto. And I will
Thanks
be on
again,
the lookout
Bruno.
for...
Thanks again, Bruno. Really appreciate it. And for our audience, if you like what we do, please like and share and comment on our content. And if you're not a subscriber, would love to have you as a subscriber. It doesn't cost much. Just you can subscribe and follow us along in our journey. Really appreciate your support. Thank you, Bruno. Enjoy your day.
Thank you, Robin. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.